Welcome to Founder Freedom, From Hustler to CEO, the podcast built for e-commerce entrepreneurs and small business owners who are ready to work less, earn more, and scale smarter. In today's episode, we meet Evan Christensen, co-owner of the Barn Door Hardware Store, a husband and wife duo that's bringing clarity, craftsmanship, and white glove service to a surprisingly tricky space, barn door installations. What started as a missed handyman appointment turned into a deep dive into mechanical hardware, customer education, and the gaps in a confusing and cluttered online market. Evan and his wife are now on a mission to demystify barn door hardware and make the installation process smoother, simpler, and smarter for DIYers and pros alike. Today, we're going to explore why they chose to stay off Amazon and how that enables better service, the challenges of running a hands-on business while raising a toddler, how customer trust, product curation, and direct support fuel their brand, the importance of clear communication when the product isn't plug and play, and what happens when you follow a pain point and build a business around solving it. If you've ever wondered what it takes to turn a niche product into a growing e-commerce brand, this episode's for you. So let's get into it with Evan Christensen. Hey, Evan, welcome. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you, Steve?
Doing awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about how the Barn Door store, what their value proposition is to the marketplace?
Yeah, sure. So Barn Door Hardware Store, it's really a one-stop shop for premium barn door hardware with a real focus on customer service. But we offer anything from, a wide selection of styles, finishes, rustic to modern. So whether you're a homeowner, contractor, interior designer, cabinet maker, or even just DIY specialist, enthusiast, we have the materials that you need to install your barn door with confidence.
Nice. It's definitely a tricky space.
It is. It's as you indicated, the pathway into this business was tricky to start with, and the knowledge that we gained along the way really kind of helped birth this business, which is nice.
So what kind of inspired you to create the Barn Door Hardware Store?
So as you indicated, it started really, I was between jobs, to be honest with you, and we had hired a handyman to come and install a barn door. The house that we had gotten had an addition off the back of the house, and they didn't install any door. That addition was a bathroom. So there was nothing separating a master bedroom and a master bathroom. The previous owner had apparently used curtains, and we didn't want to use curtains. We wanted to have something a little bit more private, as you can understand. So, my wife really wanted a barn door, and we went down the path of trying to make sure that we have everything needed to get that barn door installed. And so we hired a handyman, and we followed up with the handyman, and all of a sudden it came down to the time when he was supposed to come, and he never showed up. It was time for a crash course in barn door installation at that point for me, because it somehow worlds aligned, and it was my 2 weeks off between jobs, and my wife's like, "You're doing it." I'm like, okay, really didn't want to. I'd rather find another handyman, but here we are. I got the time, and let's do this. So I took the deep dive. I, had to build my own wall, and basically because there was no wall space to go through the entirety of the track length, I had to build in blocking and wall space to make sure that the barn door can be attached to that. And as you can imagine, going through all that and making sure that you properly install everything, and then there's all the extracurriculars involved with putting up walls again, and mudding and taping and painting again. Eventually, you start getting familiar with the barn door space, and answers were hard to find. I think there's definitely some companies that do it better, but a lot of the big box stores will say you can't get answers from them.
Right.
And so that's really kind of how the business came about. Is we provide an option, and we really try to put a lot of effort into the customer service side, answering your questions to the fullest extent that we can.
Yeah. So that's amazing. I mean, you took a yes deer into a whole nother level.
Yeah.
And barn doors are tricky because, they're typically, within the recent past, I would say within 30 years ago, we're pretty much strictly on barns, not in homes.
Correct. Yeah. And, you had almost all of the barn doors were on a single track, and you just slide it from one location to the other. And now there's so many different types of applications, and figuring out the top of the track is not always that sometimes is the easy part. Figuring out how to control the sway of the doors, because you don't want these big barn doors swinging up against your walls, for example.
Right.
Yeah, it's become certainly a tricky space.
I'm sure. So when you were looking into creating the business, I know you kind of described it already, but what was the major challenge or gap that you guys focused on to create? the actual brand?
The major challenge was differentiating between your typical big box stores, right? So
Hmm.
it's mostly like we wanted to make sure that we provided quality products with customer service backing behind it. We want to make sure that there is no buyer's remorse when you purchase this product. It's a large purchase. Like, we
Right.
don't sell cheap stuff, that's for sure. And we understand that. And so we want to work with our customers to make sure that they have all their questions answered. But at the same time, it is still an e-commerce store, right? So we need to
Right.
make sure that we list our products in the most clear and concise method and that it makes sense if you know what you are doing already.
Hmm.
And so balancing those two is sort of the challenge that we continuously have and try to continuously update the website and the business to
Sure.
tackle.
Yeah, clear communications. I mean, that's kind of marketing 101, but tackling a very technical install is probably super challenging.
Yes, admittedly, we don't have instructions on our website for trying to
Mhm.
build a wall. It
Yeah.
doesn't go to that extent, but I mean, if anyone asks a question, we're willing to help. That's for sure. But in general, most of the questions stay within the purview of just the barn door hardware installation.
So when you were putting your plan together, what was the existing way of doing things that were broken in comparison to where you ended up with your brand?
It's a great question, and I mean, it ties into stuff that we see every day. Is we get questions from people that have ordered on Amazon, that have ordered on Home Depot, ordered on Lowe's all the time, and they
Hmm.
just think that we that it's our product for some reason, and so we'll get requests from that, and like we've gone to them and we've tried to see what kind of requests that you get, and you get trapped in the AI bots. And the AI is obviously, there's a lot of benefits to AI, but I think it's still trying to get to a point where it can be extremely useful.
Hmm.
And so I don't think it's quite there yet. And we really try to stand behind the fact that you're always going to speak to a human. You're always going to get a real answer. The answer may not always be there, but we'll figure it out. That's for
Yeah.
sure. And so I think that's really what it comes down to, is that the big box stores, although they have all these AI resources and they try to be as efficient as possible in terms of customer service, they don't always provide the clearest answer that you need.
Right.
And it's because every single situation from what we've seen is fairly unique.
Yeah.
And so you need that one-on-one attention. That's how we kind of ourselves apart.
So how would you say that your company solves this problem better than the big box stores or other alternatives?
Exactly what I said. Like, we don't have any AI on the customer service side. We have a chat box. If we're not on, we'll tell you that we're not on.
Yeah.
We have a notification that we're not on. But even if I'm busy or if my wife's busy and we don't have the ability to answer the chat, then it'll be left unanswered for a bit of a time. But rest assured that we will follow up and you will get a response from a human. And so that's really, that's the how we kind of go above and beyond. And we feel that it's really unmatched compared to what we've seen from our competitors as well.
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
customer services seems to be often, the redheaded stepchild of a business operation, and nobody wants to put the effort into training a person or educating them or making it fun for the end customer. It's just cover these questions.
I always feel that it's always better to partner with the customer rather than try to sell them. Even though
Hmm.
it's like, I mean, it's just strictly customers. If they have something that they are looking at that's not necessarily needed, then I feel it's best to tell them.
Yeah,
I think having a happy customer is absolutely the best way to to run a business.
absolutely. Happy customers. That goes a long
Exactly.
way for sure. So, in your opinion,
Okay.
what's the biggest misconception that people have about what the barn door hardware store solves?
I think the biggest misconception is that it's you just kind of order it and then you're done. And I think that's what really the big box stores want the process to be.
Hmm.
But there's really, it's understanding your space, it's making sure that you have the correct hardware, and it's making sure that you understand the installation instructions to be able to put it up confidently. Whether it's you, the DIY person, or your contractor, you can always hand that over to them.
Right.
And so having a material or background or confidence, even really in all three of those phases, is critical to be able to put up your barn door hardware. And you have to have, it really helps to have someone with experience for a lot of your unique applications. I think putting up a simple sliding barn door that's just one door that goes back and forth is relatively simple. But as soon as you start having applications where we've dealt with a triple track where you have three different tracks,
Mhm.
one in front of another, that go 60 feet. It's you'd like to talk to someone.
Yeah.
about how to do that. Someone that has experience with that, to make sure that you have the confidence in knowing what you're getting, because the stuff is big, it's heavy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, there's different door types. There's softwoods that you have your typical lumber, or your hardwoods, which are going to be much heavier woods.
Right.
And dependent upon the type of door, like you may need additional hardware as well. So it's not just
Right.
so straightforward of like, hey, here's what your door size is and here's what your thickness is. Sometimes it requires like an extra hanger. You don't need two hangers that you typically see. You may need a third
Mm-hmm.
hanger or even a fourth hanger in some of those cases. It's a great question, because that it's making sure that the customer understands all three phases, and that's what we're really trying to tackle. I think that the website, we try to have all the information for trying to size it, and then obviously we have the customer service backend. We have the hardware side, getting it to you. That's mostly handled by us. But then in terms of installation, we try to also provide the tools, obviously not the physical tools, but the material needed to have confidence in putting that up and have confidence that it is what you want as well.
Right. That's pretty neat. So do you have a particular win that you could share with our audience today?
Yeah, we have a ton of different applications. Honestly, they come in almost every day. I mentioned one already where you have like the 60 feet of triple track. So what is that? 180 feet total of track, which is obviously you want to have someone with confidence behind that one, or to answer your questions. But, we've had examples where, less traditional, where I think wedding venues like to have, especially at like wedding venues that have been converted to a wedding venue from like a barn stable, or for example,
Okay.
They'll have a bar behind a barn door. And I think that's a slick look.
Mm.
But sometimes they want to move it further than the track allows. And so working with the customers, and that's really an application where you'd have to make sure that the top rail is not so hard to figure out. It's the bottom rail and how you control the barn door, make sure that it doesn't swing all over the place along the entire length.
Right.
And so working with our customers to make sure that they fully understand what's needed at every aspect, from all aspects of the design, to understand that. But yeah, so we'll have, super long lengths of barn doors. We have something that's pretty popular now is bifold doors. And so just the other day, I was working with someone that wants 8 panels, much like your closet doors. We have bifold barn door hardware that allows you to also do up to 12 doors. And you can slide 6 doors to the right and 6 doors to the left, or any combination within there. Wow. And obviously it has a much better aesthetic than I think some of your rickety closets that are kind of built in. It's, there's just a ton of different applications. There's a bunch of stainless steel operations. Our stainless steel hardware is obviously, it's not cheap, but our customers love it.
Sure.
We recommend that in outdoor applications, and making sure our customers understand that in outdoor applications, especially if you live in high humidity areas or areas where the barn door is going to be exposed to running water, that they have the confidence that if they're spending thousands of dollars on hardware, that they are confident in what they're purchasing and that they will be happy.
That's great. Yeah, those bifold barn doors, that takes technical installation to a whole nother level.
Yes, exactly.
A whole nother level. That's a lot of hardware.
Exactly.
I can relate. I used to install a lot, but yeah, that's crazy complicated.
Yeah. It's not as straightforward as your regular barn doors, but it's a lot of hardware, but it's not difficult to understand and to put it together. And that's another one of our big focuses. And I think we mentioned that about the delivery, or not the delivery of the product, but the installation. It's really important that we work with vendors that have clear and concise instructions.
For sure. So what about trends looking forward? Anything that you see on the horizon that are going to kind of shape your brand up a little bit?
It's a good question. We continuously add products and try to make them more clear. And one of the challenges that we have is that there's so many different configurations associated with different roller types and different finish colors. What's the best way to represent that? I think doing a physical photo shoot of all of that is very difficult.
Sure.
For example. And so how do we represent the best product to our customers? And I think rendering is kind of a cool area that we're trying to explore, to be able to offer an image of the quality image for every different configuration. In terms of the actual hardware, bifolds, I think, are a big one that we're seeing a lot of people look into, just because instead of the door sliding to one side or another, if, for example, you're in a tight space and you don't have a ton of room to slide your door, then the bifolds have the ability to fold rather than slide to the side. The folding action allows you to have access without consuming all the space that your traditional sliding ones do. So I think the bifold ones are really interesting. Stainless steel, as I mentioned before, is is becoming more and more popular as well, just because of the longevity and the quality of those products. But
and we all like shiny stuff when we're spending money.
Exactly. Well, I mean, we work with a vendor that even has like a powder coated stainless steel as well.
Oh, cool.
You can, even if you like the matte black, you can also have the stainless steel powder coated in matte black, which is a cool combination.
Yeah. There is a lot of cool finishes out there today for sure. So thinking about our business owners that might be listening, do you have any suggestions for somebody either launching or working in e-commerce in a highly technical space? What could they do to stay ahead of the curve? What kind of potholes are out there that they should try to be aware of?
It's a great question. I think from my perspective, focus on that happy customer, whether the customer comes back or not, honestly. Make sure that they're happy and that they're satisfied with their approach. I think, as I mentioned earlier, AI is useful in a lot of aspects, but is it ready for prime time? At least I know when I go to someone's site and there's an AI bot there, it usually doesn't answer my question. So until I get to a point where I understand where the AI bots are able to answer my questions, and I also and I know what product I want to implement that same thing on ours, we're not going to be doing that. You're going to be interacting with a human, and the goal is to have that happy customer, because I think, as indicated, my wife's the marketing engine behind everything. My understanding is that a happy customer, word of mouth is the best way for advertising, because it comes with that confidence.
Absolutely. Especially for big ticket purchases. I would totally agree with that.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's good advice. Keep your customers happy, people.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is a very repeatable answer for this question. I love it. Thank you.
Exactly. Yeah, it is.
So what's next for your brand?
I kind of indicated it before. We reach out. I scroll through, all the pages of the internet for a variety of hardware. We want to continue to offer more variety, more unique options for our customers, and with the mindset that we want to offer quality products, right? So, we look into all different types of brands, and we try to find, we have the typical ones, but then I think that the interesting ones come from a lot of the people that are trying something new, the smaller businesses. And, the benefit of that is that they usually do provide the better customer service as well.
Yeah.
And so that's really kind of our focus, is trying to work with smaller companies that are developing innovative hardware for barn doors and partnering with them to create a one-of-a-kind place where you can get everything with confidence.
That's pretty cool. I like it. I mean, Made in America is back like with a vengeance lately. And this is a very good path to follow.
It is, yes. And I think, and there's the Made in America aspect, but there's also just the quality aspect of it. And, my understanding is, in order for you to make money with some of the imports, is you have to bring in a lot. There's a lot of production, which inevitably stuff is you're going to have flaws.
Yep.
And Made in America, you can have that one-on-one attention with some of the products that we have. One of the vendors that we work really closely with, everything is made to order. So everything is checked before it's sent out. So you have confidence that when it arrives at your doorstep, it's ready to go. Yeah.
That's awesome. So how can listeners get in touch with your brand? You can list your website, list your socials, whatever you're working these days.
Visit us at thebarndoorhardwarestore.com. Don't forget hardwarestore.com.
Right.
And you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest. And if you want to reach out to us, chat us, there's plenty of, you can email me, Evan at thebarndoorhardwarestore.com. There's plenty of places to reach us and to follow our stuff.
Well, that wraps up our conversation with Evan, folks, a business owner who's making the barn door process way less of a headache for homeowners and renovators everywhere. Whether you're a hands-on DIYer or just someone who wants to avoid another Amazon misfire, the Barn Door Hardware Store is proof that product curation, education, and human support still matter, especially in the space full of lookalikes and shipping delays. To learn more, browse their handpicked selection and get your next project off the ground. Visit thebarndoorhardwarestore.com. Thanks for tuning in to Founder Freedom, where real people build real businesses that last. See you next time.